Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Dark Angel podcast. You guys should probably be used to this by now. It is me and Max. So we're going to get into kind of how our last week has gone a little bit. We've both gone through a little bit of changes, obviously excluding the weather. That's been a big change. That's something that everybody is probably, I'm assuming, getting used to. In the last week, I have gotten a new job. That is something that I am getting used to. I'm not sure about you, but that's something definitely that I'm trying to get used to. I've kind of had to change my schedule around a little bit. I started going to the gym more consistently thanks to my brother. He's been pushing me to get out and, get active, which I'm super thankful for. So
how is it trying to fit into like that new environment at work?
It's not bad. So there's the boss. She's a very lovely lady, Miss Nina, and then there's another guy in there, and great guy. So that's been going well so far. But yeah, is there anything different going on in your life? From the last time we recorded, or?
Yeah, I've got into options trading a little bit, trying to, build up some skills, make some money, but other than that, no, nothing new.
That's awesome. I know you mentioned to me the other day you just watched Queen's Gambit. For those of you who don't know, Queen's Gambit is about chess. I myself am a chess enthusiast.
Chess nerd.
So yeah, this episode, we're going to be talking about change. So I don't know if you guys got that from the beginning, but change, I think, personally, is something I really struggle to deal with. It's something that is very hard for me, and that goes hand in hand with my anxiety. So, we'll be getting into kind of my story with change, but just in this last week, getting a new job, getting into a new environment, that's a big change for me, and that's something it's a little tough.
Yeah, and something to be said for change, too, is it can have a huge effect on your mental health, whether you think it will or not, or, no matter how ready you are for change, there's going to be an adjustment period mentally that you aren't completely comfortable or satisfied.
Yeah, definitely. When I went in for the interview, it was about a week ago, maybe a little longer. I caddied for this lady's husband, and they said, "Oh, I think you would be a perfect fit for this position. Let us know if you're interested." And I said, "You know what? Gets me out of my comfort zone a little. Let me go do it. Let me try." So I went. I got the job the next day, which was a great feeling. But now, like I said, that's something I have to implement into my schedule, which is now another change, so it's something I'm trying to wrestle with a little bit. Like I said, I want to get into my story with change, but first I kind of want to get into Max's story with change. I think he has quite a story, all the way from the beginning of his life to where we are now. So if you want to kind of take us to your first part of change. I think you deal with change a lot better than I do.
I've had a lot of change. There's always been some element of change every couple of years or so. Probably from, I'd say, age 8 or so, I moved to New York, and that obviously was a huge change.
So going back from when you're 8 years old, right, I think it's probably not a concept that you understand as much as you really do now. But going from a kid, right, you have all your friends, you're comfortable in your environment, whatever it is, your teachers, your school, whatever it is, your town, every restaurant, every fun place to go to, whatever it is. At 8 years old now, coming up and moving, let's kind of dive into that. And then I kind of want to talk about how that has affected you now.
So, the change then compared to now, you don't, I would say, notice or understand the emotions as much then as you do now, but the emotions aren't as unbearable then as they are compared to now. It was a lot easier to deal with the change back then because obviously that was the only thing going on. All you kind of know as a kid, or at least understand in your life that is constantly going to be there. At least, I can't speak for everybody. Not everybody obviously is a family, but if you are at home and you move around, the one constant is your family, right? So that part I was okay with because I had my family with me, and that it didn't affect me as much. But recent change has been more of a struggle for me because I feel like there's more of a personal connection to everything that I do, just by the nature of making my own choices in life now.
Okay, yeah.
And that can definitely drag you down, whether you intend it to or not.
Yeah.
And it's definitely something that everyone needs to pay attention to. If they're going through something like that, maybe be a little bit, easier on yourself in times of change.
Yeah, definitely. When I was little, I honestly didn't have many changes. I had changes that I guess I would say the normal kid has, right? You go from your elementary school to your middle school. I would say I didn't encounter my first big change until high school, or going into high school. I went to a Catholic school. I went with Max, but I grew up in a small town, where I knew everybody. Everybody knows us, and it's kind of like one big family, I like to say. Everybody knows everybody's business, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing is besides the point, but it's something you kind of get comfortable in, and you're used to it. So as I was going into high school, you kind of start this process. What is it, 7th grade you take the exam? What is it, the cheese exam?
The cheese exam?
Yeah, it's like the exam to get into Catholic schools.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if it's called the cheese exam. I don't remember what it was called.
I think that's what it was, like the acronym for it, so people called it the cheese exam. That's all I remember. But I also, that was something really overwhelming for me. I believe it was in 7th grade. Do you remember when we took it?
No.
Okay.
Honestly, I couldn't tell you.
I believe it was 7th grade. 7th or beginning of 8th grade, one of the two. And I always kind of knew I wanted to go to a different school. I kind of wanted to broaden my horizons. I didn't want to, I always heard the term, oh, you're going to peak in high school, you're going to peak in high school, you never want to peak in high school, so I was like, that was a way I could kind of change this, kind of reinvent myself, per se. I also was really into baseball, so I knew this school I was going to, Kallenberg, has an amazing baseball team, so that's kind of the main reason I was looking to go to another school. So, once I took the test and everything, it still didn't feel real. It still didn't feel like I'd be leaving all my friends from home, and once 8th grade came, I remember being accepted to the schools, and, you go to the orientations or whatever. It's like I believe it was like the acceptance something. I don't know. It was something where all the kids who were accepted, and I believe who accepted the invitation to go to the school, you come in, sit in the auditorium, and you kind of get a rundown of the school, the teachers, and it's like an orientation, before the big orientation when you're going to the actual school. And I vividly remember just sitting there, and I'm like, am I really doing this? Am I going to uproot myself, go to somewhere where I know absolutely no one? Sometimes you have kids from your town who are going. Did you have anybody from your town that you knew?
Yeah, my neighbor was going.
Okay, yeah. I had absolutely no one in my grade. I knew somebody a year older than me, and then somebody 2 years older than me. But still, it's not somebody you're going to be seeing. They're upperclassmen, you're a freshman. You're never going to be seeing these people other than the bus. So it was nerve-wracking, and I just remember sitting there in the auditorium and thinking to myself, like, wow, like, am I really going to be doing this? It's too late to say no, and like I said,
What did you feel in that moment, though? Like, what emotions were you feeling?
Definitely overwhelmed. A lot of anxiety. Like I've said to you guys, this is actually during, like, my worst, I would say, mental health time, or at least one of my worst mental health times. So I was kind of in a low place to begin with. And, I just had a lot of different emotions. You're an 8th grader, you got a lot of hormones going on. You're going through changes as it is, right? Which that's also something hard to understand at that young of an age, right? You kind of don't understand why you're in bad moods. And you don't understand why you're cranky, happy all of a sudden. And, it's all these different emotions just flowing through your body.
Yeah.
And on top of this, now I'm going to a new school, no kids, that I know. And look, I don't mind talking to people, but there's that social anxiety again, right? It's like, I love talking, I love being out there, but at the same breath, it's like actually getting out there is the hard thing.
So, to interrupt you quickly.
Yeah, you're good.
How, at that age, did you move past it? Obviously, you had to go to school and you had to do those things. How did you get to a point, or did you even ever get to a point where you were comfortable going into that new environment before you made all those friends? Throughout, time of just being there.
I kind of remember just kind of sucking it up to, and I was like, look, I know this is what's best for me. I can't let my emotions get the best of me. And yeah, I remember sitting there, like I said, in that time and just kind of contemplating everything. I was trying to see, would this change really be worth it for my future, right? Because this is what it is. It's about your future, high school. This is kind of the start of your future, right?
Yeah.
You do well in high school, now you go to a good college, and then you get a good job. That's the American dream, right? So I was like, is this really where I belong? I had a ton of friends from my town, people I loved, and I was like, is this going to change that? There's so many changes that came with it, and my fault included. You meet new people and then you stop talking to other people. Now you're going to school with these kids, the kids that you aren't going to school with, you're not seeing them every day. You're not interacting with them every day, so that was another change that I was worried about. I'm like, am I still going to be talking to these kids? Am I going to then not be talking to the kids in my school because I'm so involved with my friends from middle school, and that was something that was kind of going through my mind. I was like, how am I going to be able to balance all of these different things? It was definitely rough, and I remember sitting there, it's so funny. It's such a clear memory for me. And every time I sat in that auditorium, I kind of had that same feeling all the way up until senior year. I kind of evaluated the changes that I've been going through and the changes that I've had and implemented into my life. It was kind of like my thinking area in the school, if that makes sense. And once I actually went to the school, it was very easy making friends. They make sure you make friends and whatnot. Luckily, I had a great homeroom, great guys I'm still in touch with today. But I definitely did notice those fears starting to come true, such as seeing my friends from my town less, and that was something that I felt bad about, right? Because, like I said, I did love these guys. I still do. I recently reconnected with a lot of them, which I'm happy about. But it's something, I couldn't kind of control. It was kind of a change that was out of my control.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you have any similar experiences during these times?
Yeah, I mean, the one for everybody, I'm sure we all remember. I graduated right during COVID. So I didn't really get a senior year like everyone kind of imagines having. No graduation, prom, or anything like that. So obviously, that wasn't so much a change versus an expectation that kind of fell short, I guess. But I've had a bunch of change. I've moved around between a bunch of different states in the past year or so. I've had a bunch of different jobs. I've kind of done a bunch of different things to just kind of figure out what I want to do. But through that process, it's required me to constantly change. And at times, I've definitely felt a little burnt out.
Okay,
among other things, of course. other than being burnt out, you're constantly going from place to place. You don't really have a sense of, you can relax because you don't know where you haven't gotten accustomed to that environment.
Yeah.
You don't really know that environment. And then, every, 4 to 6 weeks, you're kind of changing. So I initially went down to Florida, and that was nice, and then I bounced between South Carolina and Florida towards the end of that year, and that was a rough time. And then especially coming home, once I finally got home, I kind of crashed, and for weeks I didn't really do anything. I needed to give myself time to adjust back to what I needed, because I had strayed so far from any sort of routine or comfort that I didn't really know what to do next.
Yeah.
And I just needed to let things kind of settle first before I took the next step.
Yeah. And I remember, you going through that. And do you think that was caused from the change? Because like you've said, you were bouncing all over the place, right? You're kind of, as I remember you described it to me, your life was kind of all over the place. You wanted to do so many things, and I give you so much credit because you were doing a lot more than I think 99% of people can handle. So that was really, really good on your part, but it gets overwhelming, right? It burns you out in a sense.
Yeah.
So going from doing all of this activity to then, like you said, you had those few weeks of, now that's another big change, right? You're going from doing all of this stuff to now doing nothing. And I remember you saying something to me, and I felt the same way in the past. When now you're not doing all these activities, right? You're not filling your day with things, right? Because that's what you're used to. You're used to this pattern of, okay, I'm going to do this, go to bed. This, every day. It's like, rinse and repeat. And I remember you saying to me, you're like, dude, I feel like I'm worthless. I feel like I have no purpose, right? What am I doing? I'm not doing anything, and I'm not getting anything done. I don't know what to do, but when I don't do things, or when I do things, I feel great. And then now when I'm doing nothing, I feel like, what am I doing?
Yeah. It's tricky, and looking back on it, I would have made more of a point to enjoy the time of doing nothing.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I'll always struggle with, is kind of not feeling like I'm not necessarily moving in any particular direction. Because I like to know that I'm working towards something. That's something, the things that I'm doing have a purpose in the end.
Yeah.
But I think there's also a positive side to change,
Yeah, I agree.
In the way that, evoking good change can also be very difficult because of what you essentially, the control that you have to have over your own actions, your own emotions, and your own feelings, to either disregard them in that moment or completely change them to evoke that necessary or good change. And that's what people, I think, struggle with the most, because you get so accustomed to a certain way of life, or you expect these certain things, and then when the change comes, it's like a loss, because you were expecting something, or you never thought something would end, and then all of a sudden, now things are completely different, and you didn't have a chance to kind of prepare yourself for that.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a great, segue into this. So kind of after I got into my comfort zone at my new school, made a bunch of friends, right? Everything's all good. Now going into 10th grade, I believe it was the summer of 10th grade. It was either going into 10th grade or going into 11th. I believe it was going into 10th though. We wound up moving. So it was around Christmas time. My parents were like, all right, we're going to move, and me and my siblings were kind of taken back a little bit. This is our home of, I believe we built this house in 2003. I believe we built it when I was born, or 2004, I think it was finished. So I've been here since I was 1 year old. Now I'll be 20 in another 2 months. So obviously that was something that we were all like, what? We were all very confused. We were all taken back by it. But we didn't question it. We didn't want to cause any problems, whatever. We were like, whatever. We'll do it as a family. We're a family unit. Whatever we got to do, we do. So, we had to pack up all of our boxes in the house. We had to move everything out. And that was rough. That was a big, big change. And it's something I'm honestly thankful for. I'll continue with the story and I'll get into why I'm thankful for it. I think it really shaped me to be who I am today. But this was something that was really hard at the time, so it was after the holidays, I believe we moved out. We moved everything over there, everything was great. But it was definitely rough, in the aspect of change, right? So I wound up, going to my mom, and she was just like, look, Nick, she's like, I really think you should speak to someone, and I've gone to therapy before, in 8th grade, actually. And she was like, I really think it would be great if you were to speak to someone, what we all just went through wasn't easy, so let's go, and I was like, and I'd love that, it's I was kind of like, it was almost like she read my mind, I needed to speak to someone, and my mom's like, look, I'm not a professional, so I don't have the advice to give you, as much of advice as I do have, some things I can't speak on, so let's go to a professional. So I wound up going to a therapist. We told her I told her the whole situation, everything that's going on, how I had to move, and I wound up learning a lot about myself, and we really did come together as a family, and it made all of us more open. My mom's someone who's always super, super open. She's an open book. You could go to her with anything if you have any problems. I love her, and I'm really appreciative of all she does. Same thing with my dad. He's a little more closed off. But after that time, he did open up more. And that was something we all really appreciated and we all noticed, and it's something I find important. It was important for all of us. So we moved. I go to therapy, and therapy, that was another change, right? It was something I wasn't accustomed to, but yet again, it's a good change. This getting out of my comfort zone, going to a new house, it was something, not that I was like, yeah, let me go do that, but we had no choice, right? So we just did it, and it was something that I'm super happy for. We wound up just redoing this house, coming back maybe 6 to 8 months later. But we didn't know that at the time, so it was like, it was a really important time for all of us. We got to really get close with all of each other and learn a lot about each other, and I think that was probably one of the most pivotal moments of my life. I learned, like I said, a lot more about myself and my anxieties and where everything stems from, and a lot of it has to do with change and control. I couldn't control those situations. I couldn't control the fact that we were moving. I couldn't control the fact that now I'm going to, a different bedroom, a different bathroom. It's like things that are so simple, but it's like,
it's what feels like a different life.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
If you were to, say someone was to come up to you, and they share with you that they're struggling with the aspect of not being in control, right? Because I know almost everyone I know struggles with that to some degree.
Yeah.
Right? You want some kind of autonomy over your own life, right? And people will drastically change their life to get autonomy or control over, their own life.
Yeah.
So how would you go to someone and, without changing the situation that they're in, help them regain a little bit of control of that situation?
So,
at least over how they feel in that situation.
Okay, so I'm going to touch on a few things here. First off, there's zero control in life, right? So one thing I learned in therapy is we can't control anything, right? And the harder you try and control things, the more likely there is a chance of it not going your way, right? You know, I used to be somebody who tried to control every single aspect of my life. I had to have a schedule. I had to have everything planned out. And look, don't get me wrong. There's a fine line. It's good. I'm still somebody who's planned, organized. I like having a schedule, you know, but I had it to a point where I was like micromanaging every little aspect of my life where I needed to be in complete control. You know, my family makes jokes. When I was little, you know, I would need the player one Wii remote, you know, because I needed to be in control, right? So it's like little things like that, you know, I kind of took that to the extreme level. And my therapist, I just remember her saying, she's like, Nick, you can't control everything, you know, and when you learn that, your life will be so much better. And she's 100% right. I learned to not control everything. You know, it's that thing I've talked about before, retraining your brain, right? So it's like I've said, it's not easy. This is something that's very, very hard to do. But with persistence and perseverance, you can do it. You just have to train your brain and say, look, I can't control this. Just like the weather, right? We have no control over the weather. We accept that, right? You accept you have no control over the weather, right?
Yeah, and look, there's also something I'd say as well about not having control. You want an element of surprise in your life.
Yeah, exactly.
If you go and you have the same predictable schedule every day and you have the same predictable meals every day and you see the same predictable people every day, you know, I'm not hating on it.
No.
But everyone to some degree wants a little bit of variance in their life, right? Whether it's, you know, that, you know, once a year vacation for a week over the holidays with family. You know, people enjoy a little bit of change. So accepting and understanding that you're not going to be in control over anything but how you react to the situation that you're put in. And once you understand that, the way you see things, the way you experience life, and your overall mood will shift positively in a huge way.
Yes. Also, another thing, you know, for another question you asked in that question before was, how can you kind of control your environment, if that makes sense?
More of a, how do you control your mental environment rather than the physical environment around you?
So what I've done, or what my therapist told me to do, was try and think of a control in that environment, right? So let's say you're at a party, right? Or you're in your house, right? So we have a New Year's party. Let's say, you know, everybody's doing what they're doing, you know, and you're like, I have no control over this. I can't do anything. Think of things in the environment that you can control, you know. So let's say the temperature, right? So you're going to go put the thermostat on 70 degrees, right? So you're controlling an aspect of it, and think of it as, okay, I have some control over it. Now I'm good, right? You know, so it's kind of tricking your brain in a sense. You know, you're not controlling everybody, right? You're controlling one aspect of your environment, but then you kind of have to stop it there, right? So you can't keep going, okay, I'm going to tell her what to do. I'm going to tell him what to do. You know, it's like, no, I'm going to control one aspect and that's fine, right? Or music, you know, things like that.
You need to build up the confidence that you can control it if you need to be.
Yeah.
Compared to being a control freak and needing to control every aspect of it.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
There's good amounts of control.
Yes, 100%.
You know?
100%. You know, and I've always, I feel like that, you know, today. You need somebody to take control of a situation sometimes, right? Look, if nobody's taking control, nothing's going to get done, you know? So, say in a work environment, you do need a boss. The boss is going to tell the workers what to do, whatever, you know, and same thing, you're on vacation. Somebody plans out the itinerary, you know, and you kind of get it all, what we're going to do, we're going to go here, here, here. That's fine. You know, that's okay, you know, but it's not, the world doesn't revolve around you know what I'm saying? You know, in the nicest way possible. You have to kind of accept that things aren't always going to go your way. There's so many aspects of life, right? There's so many different variables that can happen in life. That's just life. And once I understood that, I kind of got more comfortable with control.
You also probably felt like you were in more control.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. Instead of looking at all the little things, what can I control? What can I do? What can I do? You know, It's more of, you know what?
Accepting things as the
Yes.
way they are.
Exactly. I'm
And
going to step back.
understanding that you have the ability in any situation to pause, take a deep breath, reassess what's going on,
Yep.
and if you need to walk away, you walk away.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you don't need
Exactly.
to be a part of anything, because at the
Yeah.
end of the day, we're all the same one person doing ultimately different things,
Yeah.
but all trying to do what we ultimately think is best for us in that moment, you know?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
walking away and taking a second before going back in somewhere and having to deal with your problems or emotions
Yeah.
is a great way to kind of settle the water,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah, and you know, another reason why I am somebody who does not like change, you know, and it's still something I'm working with. It's something I'm working on every single day, you know, and I'm trying. It's not that easy, you know, and I'm not trying to make it sound easy because it's something I seriously struggle with, you know, in my everyday life. You know, and people may say, "Oh, why do you hate change?" And I think that's a great question, you know, and I could imagine it's different for everyone. But personally, I hate change because, like I've said, because of my anxiety, I always feel the worst is going to happen, right? So I'm like, I don't want to go to a new school. I don't want to start a new job because what if the people don't like me? What if the customers don't like me? You know, so it's like every aspect I'm always thinking, you know, which, like I said, I try and work on, and I'm trying to change that thought. And I've gotten much better from where I used to be. But, you know, even if it's as simple as going and getting fitted for a new golf club. Oh, are they going to think I stink at golf? Are they going to, you know, it's like all these intrusive thoughts are running into your head, and you're like, whoa, slow down, you know, and sometimes it's easier said than done. You know, sometimes it's like, oh, I can't stop thinking like this. You know, and in those situations, you know, with work, because like I said, I've just started a new job, and I did have those thoughts going in. I'm like, maybe they won't like me, you know. And what I do to myself, I call it turning my brain off. So I'll go in the car, whatever, say if I have to drive to that location, whatever it is, or say if I'm in school, I'll distract myself, right? So I'll turn my brain off, essentially. And I won't be thinking about that. And I say, you know, before I turn my brain off, I say, whenever I have to go there, I'm just going to go there. I'm not going to, no more thinking about it, no more giving it any more energy, right? Just turn my brain off. I'm going to go there, and whatever happens, happens. It's not in my control anymore. Whatever happens, happens, and I just have to live with it.
Yeah, and look, in those moments of uncertainty and, you know, fear of change and the anxiety that comes with it, lean into it.
Yeah.
Stop thinking about what could happen, because essentially what you're doing is, you know, you're creating all these imaginary scenarios. I have a rule for myself that if it begins with the words "what if,"
Yes.
you completely disregard it.
Yeah.
You know, because
love
all
that.
it is your head playing tricks against you, essentially trying to, you know, get you to freak out about it, worry about it. That's natural.
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
that's not something you should even feel guilty for.
Mm-hmm.
But just also understanding that, you know, it's going to be fine if you lean into it.
Yeah.
There's a beauty in not really knowing what's going to happen,
Mm-hmm.
because that's when you meet new people, you meet new friends. You
Yeah,
know,
new
you may
experiences.
meet, someone special, or, you know, you have these cool new experiences through these friends that, you know, you wouldn't have known had you not went and gotten that job.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Yes. And, you know, another thing I want to touch on what you said with the what ifs. Another thing to build on that is, instead of those what ifs saying, what if these people don't like me? What if these people are going to judge me? What if they think I'm not good enough for them? You know, change it to positive things, right? What if I am great? You know, what if I am the best worker they've had? What if all the customers love me, right? What if I am, you know, these people are going to think I'm great at this or great at that? You know, change it to a positive thing, because I think that's something a lot of people lack, you know, myself included. It's so easy to immediately jump to the negative, right? I think a lot of people jump to the negative. Because it's easy. It's easy to do that. It's easy to think
It gives
the
you
worst is going to
a
happen.
sense of protection,
Yeah.
too.
Exactly. So instead of that, be a little boastful. What if I am the best worker they've had? What if I am going to be the hardest working person out there? Give yourself more credit than you're giving, And look, these are all conversations you're having with yourself. Nobody needs to know this. You could say, I am the best this, I am the best that. Go in with some confidence. I think we all need, especially with social media, it's so easy to be like, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. I don't look good enough. I don't play good enough. Whatever it is, we got to give ourselves a little more credit. And I think we do need to look at things a lot more positively than we do. Even myself, I don't know if you're the same way.
Yeah, look, it's very easy to be negative. I've just noticed that when things get going in the wrong direction, you just have to stop moving.
Yeah.
Because when you're not moving, you're not really going anywhere. It gives you the chance to slow down, figure out where you're at, and then, do what you got to do.
Yeah, exactly. So, this is another thing. Something that's been scary to me is unknown change, right? So it's like these things are kind of happening out of nowhere, which is similar to my move. That was an unknown change, right? That was something not super easy to go through. How would I know we're moving? Whatever. But something kind of closest. I guess it wouldn't be considered unknown change. But about 2 years ago, I was in school. It was kind of like right during COVID. It was right after everybody went back in class. Like you had the option. It was when I was a senior. You could do like hybrid, you could do online, or you could do in person. I was in person. And there was a bathroom moderator, and he would sit outside the bathroom, make sure only one person went in at a time, whatever. And he always said to me, we always would talk. He was a guy in college. He was doing college while he was, working, whatever. It was like online. And, we would talk, and we got friendly with each other, and he was like, if you're ever looking for a job, let me know. He's like, I work at a country club on a golf course. He's like, if you're ever interested, we can, get you a job. And I was like, yeah, that would be awesome, so I took him up on it, and now I had zero clue about anything about golf. I have never golfed. I knew literally nothing, right? So, I was kind of faking it till I made it, right? I was like, it's a good job, and I knew absolutely nothing, right? So, picture going into a place, you have to be like, yeah, no, I know what this is, it's a little nerve-wracking. You're in front of people who are obviously around golf all the time if you're working on a golf course. So I went in there for the first time, I got the job, and I caddied, right? So I went in to be a caddy, and as a caddy, you got to know some stuff about golf. And I had zero clue about golf. For those of you out there who do golf, I had to give reads for putts. I didn't even know what a read was. I was like, what are we reading? What book are we reading? Like, I was so confused. They're like, oh, you think I should use this club? I'm like, yeah, whatever you think. I had zero idea what I was doing. And that was a huge change for me. I went from a baseball kid to now being, in the golf world where I have zero clue what I'm doing. And I had to be around people who are very knowledgeable about the sport and the topic. So I was like, okay, I just got to kind of calm down and do what I do best. I kind of just BS'd my way through it. And, now I actually do know a lot about golf. I would consider myself a decent caddy. But I had to take that chance, right? I had to go through that risk, that change, and kind of throw myself out there and be like, you know what? I can do anything. I could teach myself anything. I can learn anything, and I will be fine. And it turns out I'm so happy I wound up doing that, because I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. I make great money from caddying. I have many friends I go golfing with. It's such an important aspect of my life now. It's my life almost revolves around it.
And what would your life look like now had you not walked into that job, even knowing nothing?
Yeah.
And just taking that chance, leaning into some positive change.
I have no clue, because it's a great question. I really don't know where I'd be because it gave me a job.
It's been a huge part of your life for the past.
Yeah, exactly. And, another thing, a recent change, I had to switch clubs at where I was working. I was at one country club. Now I'm at a different country club. And, that's nerve-wracking too. You have caddies there who have been there for, say, 50, 20, 30 years, however long. People are there for 40 or 50 years. It's like, so then you got to get introduced to those people, and new members and new people. So it's like a lot of people, which is overwhelming, and that's something I had to get used to. I had to get used to these new people.
And golf can also be, at least from my personal experience, there's definitely an aspect of it that is a little pretentious at times.
Oh, definitely. Yes.
And that can be very uncomfortable for some people, including me.
Yeah.
Even when we go golfing.
Yeah.
I'm not a pretentious person. But I feel like I have to be when we go.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying.
And that was a huge change. It took me a lot of time to get even just comfortable with it. Because you're around different people, and when you're around different people or different groups of people, there's proper ways to act.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's the correct way to do things, and it's going to be different.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's part of what people also fear, is not knowing those things.
Yeah, exactly.
But no one worth your time or energy is ever going to put you down for doing something new.
Yeah, exactly. And look, we're not people who grew up, where we're around all whatever, oh, I could do this, whatever. So it's like, yeah, that's another thing. You're like, oh, am I being looked at funny? And especially for you, I give you credit because you just started golfing, and you went on to a course. I think it was your first week or second week playing, and we got paired up with two other guys. I've been playing for 6 months, and he gets paired up with the both of us get paired up with two different guys, and he's just doing his thing. He didn't get nervous. I mean, I don't know if you were nervous on the inside.
Definitely a little bit.
Yeah. But you didn't show it. And
look,
you killed it.
No one can read your thoughts, too. That's another thing.
Exactly.
So when you go into these environments where you're not comfortable, trust that no one can look at you and know what you're thinking or feeling.
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
Yep.
You can fake it if you go in there with enough composure and confidence in yourself.
Definitely.
Be confident in the fact that you don't know anything in these environments.
Yeah.
Be confident to ask. You know, because it shows that you're not ashamed. And if you seem ashamed, people are more likely to make fun of you.
Yeah, exactly.
If you act confident in your behavior throughout the process of change, people are going to want to help you get accustomed to that change.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And I think, like I said, there's so much stuff everybody can work on, myself included. It's something I'm still trying to work on. It's tough getting out there. It's tough putting yourself out there. It's not easy. It is nerve-wracking, and I think it's something we all, as a family, as the Dark Angel family, I think it's something we can all work on, I don't know if there's anything else you would like to touch on.
No, I think we've touched on all of it.
Yeah, I think so too. Like I said, I really appreciate all the feedback you guys are giving. Seriously, keep it coming. Anything you guys can feedback on really, really helps. We also started releasing these on YouTube. So if you guys are interested in watching the video aspect of this, please go check it out. It's Dark Angel Company. Yeah, I really, really appreciate everything. And tune in next time.